And welcome to 30-minute talks. Today's our first special edition. This is a special edition where we're using a meeting function and we're asking all of our students. So I muted all the microphones because that's one of the challenges we have when we have so many people. So when someone comes up, we will turn their microphone on. But we will be answering student questions from the past. We'll be answering some student video questions that have been submitted. And we look forward to finding students that have submitted questions in our registration form and allowing everyone to share their views today. But first, we must thank our academic partners, and we're fortunate to have some of them participating today. But LPU is always one of our largest and best sponsors. The University of Santo Tomas is one of those great schools, and their students are here. We have our Macau Tourism and Hospitality Association, and also the National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism, their international master's program. And I know that we have one video question from, I think, a Filipino student that's taking that program. So I think we'll look forward to seeing that much later. But before we begin, we have one special announcement. We have a special guest today. And yes, our special guest is Ms. Tina Aquino from LPU, who's the Executive Director of Department of Linkages and Standards. And she gave us this quote just for the show. So the quote was so wonderful that we decided to ask her to make a guest appearance and join us for today and be one of our panelists. So she'll be joining us as we go through the program and helping us answer some of your questions. But the key here is it's a great 30 minutes. Keep it short and substantial. I think that's the best quote we could say. We like to do as much as we can because we know students are busy and long, boring sessions are the last thing anybody wants to do. So with that said, Tina, why don't you say a few words to our audience?
It's my new Wednesday 2 o'clock habit. I keep saying that, whenever somebody books me for anything, I said, okay, my Wednesday afternoon is always sacred because it's just 1 hour or 30 minutes for the sharing of the lecture and then 30 minutes for Q&A. It's really substantial. I don't know how you manage to create a webinar for 30 minutes because I've seen a lot of webinars where they go on and on and on and it's very boring. But this one is very quick, very short, but substantial in the sense that you get a lot of information. So kudos to everyone. Keep up the good job, Alan, Perry, and Andy.
Thank you.
Okay, Tina, we appreciate that. And again, this is the example of so many videos on there. We have quite a few. So far we have, let's see, almost 100. I think it's almost 100 people in here. But let's get on to our first question. And the first question is actually a video question from Kael from National Kaohsiung University. So is everybody ready for this, for our first one?
Yep.
Yes, let's go.
Hello everyone, mabuhay. I'm Kael from the International Master's Program from the National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism. The COVID-19 pandemic has created major drawbacks in terms of tourism supply. How do you think the industry will manage travel anxieties and travel worries for the tourists in a post-pandemic world? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Hobson, why don't you, anxieties and panic from tourists, what do you think?
Oh, good question. Look, I had a couple of weeks back in one of the webinars, IATA had done some work on this, and they were showing that quite a lot of people were quite concerned about booking and traveling. And I think we're seeing that coming through. So he's spot on with his question, Carl. We've got to find ways to allay people's concerns about travel. And I think that means putting health and sanitation issues front and center in everything that we do. Already, a lot of airlines are trying to get back in the air. They're particularly concerned as whether passengers will fly. So I think the shift from security to health has to be there. Airlines, hotels have to make it very clear to their customers what they are doing. Every step of your journey, you're going to want to know what is the company doing. So I think all hotel chains, and you're beginning to see some of the big ones have started to communicate that. I think smaller businesses need to start thinking about that too. Last week I mentioned about a restaurant in Sydney that's already got a sommelier sanitizer. So when you arrive there, they bring that out. Restaurants and hotels need to find ways to tangibilize what they're doing. Andy.
Absolutely, Perry. And if I can just add to that, I think you also made a very good point in that it's not only about the hotels and the restaurants putting in action plans, but I think it's very, very clear that the industry also needs to communicate to the customers and also to their staff about what they're doing, so that becomes a much clearer message, clearer picture to the potential guests, customers, and they start getting that comfort before they make those travel plans.
Yeah, so I think, sorry, Andy.
Actually, anxiety is probably the key thing for any tourist these days. Everyone is scared of going out in public areas. So we're going to have to overcome that by building confidence and trust with our customers.
Fantastic. And I've just been looking through questions, and I see we've got Maria Iris Sophia online there. Maria, you've got a question for us. I saw you pose a question. Would you like to turn your microphone on and ask us that question directly?
Good afternoon. My question is, what tips can you give to students to learn and practice the knowledge and skills that is needed for our future, either in tourism or hospitality industry?
So the question, as I understand, is as a student, what tips can you share to acquire or develop skills that are needed to learn and practice for the hospitality industry? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Andy, what are your thoughts?
You know, that's the biggest challenge for probably every hospitality school or any school that has labs or practicals where they have to actually do hands-on thing. And the best
Oh, it sounds like we lost Andy there.
Yes.
Mute.
There we go. Let me try that.
There for a moment.
Okay, sorry about that. But the key for students that are at home is they have to use what they have at home. So if you're a culinary student, then you need to use the kitchen. You need to do the inventory, and you need to know the specifications of the food. A business manager, you have to manage your time. You have to manage your office, manage your workspace. And for everyone else, you need to take advantage of the internet and learn as much as you can. You cannot sit around and watch Netflix all the time and expect to grow in your professional career. So use what you have to the best of your ability. Alan?
Thanks very much, Andy. Absolutely. I think, as Andy's mentioned, taking the opportunity to use the resources that you've got, but I also think that for those of you that are lucky enough to actually get to work sooner or later, the opportunity really means that use the best between what you learn in your institution and the industry as an opportunity to practice those skills on the job. I know that that's not quite the situation that everybody's in at the moment. That won't happen until it frees up. But a lot of the practical skills, and there's a number of models in terms of acquiring and teaching practical skills, can also be acquired on the job. And I think it's really important to start thinking about the educational institution and the relationship and partnership with the industry in order to develop those practical skills.
Perry?
Yeah, well, look, I think once universities start getting back on campus, and we're planning for that at Sunway University. So one of our challenges is how we can also involve students in making sure that we are following things. So we've got students in the health area, in the hospitality area, and we're looking at ways to make sure our students are actually involved in that, because again, learning at campus is a great place to learn. It's just like a very, very busy airport. So how can we learn those things about health, sanitation, and put them into place on our campus? Because you've got to walk your talk on these things. Getting those practical experiences is going to be very important. Our industry is going to go through some tough times going forward. Businesses will reopen as people start traveling, and already you can see airlines, hotels making plans for that later in the year. So things will start to move back. And the question now is keeping those links up with the industry, because they're going to want people who can think through, go back to our first question, what needs to be done. So we need to make sure educators, universities are on top of this because those will be the skills the industry is going to be needing straight away.
You know, what are they doing at LPU to take care of the practical side?
Well, we're actually working closely with our industry partners, making sure that the protocols that are being implemented right now, it's a slow move from self-quarantine to at least now it's modified quarantine. We're checking out how, as mentioned in the previous tourism talks, where you do new protocols now in housekeeping, in front office, in F&B. And you know, social media's never been so nice, because now hotels, restaurants are really sharing their new updates. I believe that it's a good way also to learn what's happening out in industry, because otherwise, if we continue to teach what we've been teaching before without incorporating these new processes that are being implemented already in the hotels, we will again be suffering from what? A skills mismatch, where students don't have the skill sets that are needed by industry. In fact, in a number of webinars, we've seen that hotels will not take in practicum students in the immediate future. I think that is a self-reflection for schools. How do we make sure that our students are going to be relevant? And you've got to do something about, forget about the curriculum, but focus on the content. How do you modify it so that your students will have what it takes to work in the new tourism and hospitality industry? There's a lot of things, new protocols in social distancing, new protocols in checking in guests, even serving takeout containers, even handling takeout food, even how to bill customers. Those are things that we really need to be aware of. Otherwise, we're going to be irrelevant to industry.
I agree. Good points, Tina. Alan, I'm gonna push the button here on Nandar's video question, but maybe you can find one of those other students that asked the question out in the audience out there.
Hello everyone, my name is Nanda A, studying at National Council University of Hospitality and Tourism in the International Master Program of Tourism and Hospitality. My question is, restaurant and bar owners are complaining that social distancing is going to impact on their operation and profits. What do you think they should do differently in order to survive? Thank you.
Yeah, the question is, restaurants have the social distancing and our businesses in all areas. How are we going to survive if we can only have 25% or 50% of the attendance and customers that we normally have? Alan, why don't you start off with that? Turn your mic on. Okay.
Hasn't got his mic on. While he's figuring that out, I'll jump in. Look, I think lots of restaurants are trying different things and ways of managing this. I know in some countries we're seeing restaurants do bookings so that you have to book your space ahead of time. There's then been complaints from people that they're not showing up. So what a lot of restaurants are doing are actually asking for a deposit up front. And this is going to dramatically drop the amount of no-shows, which is often a pain, particularly to the restaurant industry. So I think we're going to see some interesting behavioural changes coming through in terms of how people go out. I think people are going to have to become a lot more organised. They're going to have to organise a time and a place. That's going to make restaurants think further about how they can use technology, because it's going to be less on the spur of a moment and it's got to be more planned and organised. So I think for restaurants, there's quite a bit of upside here actually, because as we know, a lot of restaurants have a lot of downtime when actually they don't have customers, they can't manage the flow, and organising things, going online with apps and so forth will change that. Bars are going to be faced with a more challenging situation, I think, there. Again, a lot have started doing takeouts and those sorts of things. So there are other ways that bars, depending on the legal jurisdictions, have found some ways around that. And again, I think it's about creative use of space and layouts that can be done. So there may be some other innovative ways around that. Alan, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, and I think maybe it's worth reflecting on a very good presentation that Dr. Andy gave some weeks ago, where he showed a photograph of a restaurant with a big car park, and he said, "You see a car park, I see a business opportunity." So as Perry has mentioned, I think there's a whole range of innovative ways in which restaurants are able to increase available space. So that's one thing. The other way is looking at innovative ways in which they can use the existing space. but also I think it's about making your restaurant, your environment attractive to the guests, doing all the right things, communicating a positive message to try and attract the customers back to your restaurant in the first place, and let them enjoy that. So I think the first hurdle is to get people to be comfortable coming back. And the second part of it is to have a plan in place to make sure that there is social distancing that can actually take place and make them feel comfortable and safe while they're there.
And Alan, I see Paul Whitelaw has his hand up, so I'm going to ask him to maybe unmute. And if you want to ask if you can join us for a second, Paul, what do you think? Have you any comments on that one?
Yes, thanks, Andy. Look, I think one of the things we've just got to bear in mind is that this this business is an incremental approach, that you know, the restaurants are being invited to open first with very small numbers, and as Perry said, you know, they're going to be exploring new business models and new approaches. Certainly the Australian experience is people will now be asked to pay a deposit when they make a reservation. So that actually creates a new business opportunity for people in the online reservation space to affect, you know, the receipting of money and what have you. But I do think, though, that we are on a long trajectory, and that the pressure will be on the restaurateurs to find a way to be profitable with very small numbers of people in their place, or very quick turnover of small numbers of people in their place. But it is something that will be highly experimental for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that comment. And let's take a question from the audience. I know we have someone here from UST, Gershi Carraro. Is that the name? Is that how you say it? Gershi, you there? Can you unmute your microphone and tell us what your question is? Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can. Go
ahead. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead with your question.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jershime Kakirao from the University of Santo Tomas College of Tourism and Hospitality Management. And my question is, in line with the ongoing pandemic that we are facing right now, how can the tourism and hospitality industry resolve issues of having to reduce numbers of their employees and staffs who also needs to work to survive with their families? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. And I think one of the things that hotels will have to do is readjust schedules so that they have more time, because a lot of kids can't go to school. So parents have to stay home to help out with the kids. It's more difficult to travel. It takes longer to get places, you know, even on EDSA. Right now, EDSA, they're working on trying to set up those buses so there's less buses, but they'll be faster. So is that going to solve the problem? We don't know, but it's going to take longer for people to get to work. It's going to take longer for people to get home. So instead of maybe a 5 or 6 day week, maybe they have to work 4 days and work longer hours to reduce that travel time. But the other advantage is if a lot of people can work from home, then they can eliminate the travel time and they can use that time to take care of their kids and then also focus on their jobs. Alan?
Yeah, thanks very much for the question. And I really think that, especially for hospitality and tourism students around the world, this really poses a great opportunity. I think that people that have got the skills, have been listening to these webinars, have been listening to your professors and your lecturers in a whole range of different ideas about preparing yourself for this post-COVID era. You really are ahead of the bunch. You've already got a lot more knowledge about possibly what your employer and what you need to do in order to, number one, maintain your job, and then number two, be ahead of the pack in terms of ongoing employment. So all the basic things that we've been talking about for the last number of weeks about understanding that the restaurant needs a plan, understanding what a plan might mean to you and your fellow employees, understanding about just basic use of personal protection equipment, understanding a little bit about what it means to adhere to and respect social distancing, understanding what it means to actually wash your hands properly and show the guests that you are practicing that and that you're maintaining good, safe hygiene practices while you're at work. All those things seem very basic, but they're all critically important to not only your workplace, but also to the guests. So I think hospitality students in general have got a great advantage over most employees because you're already listening to and starting to understand what needs to take place. There's no doubt that this COVID pandemic will go away at one point or another. I mean, the world has seen many, many different pandemics over the years. We spoke about the Spanish flu, a long time ago. We seem to deal with that. None of us can say whether it will go away this year, next year, or the following year, but there will be a time where things will start normalizing. But in the meantime, it's about understanding the basics.
Very good, Alan. Let's go out to the audience. If someone want to raise their hand and ask a question, let's do a free for all. Anybody?
We've got Tim if Tim's available. I just can't. I can see he's there. I haven't been able to see him yet. Tim, if you're around, you've got a question as well.
Let's see. Oh, Tim, how about Bernard? Who's Bernard? Bernard, I'm gonna unmute your mic. Why don't you ask us a question, Bernard? Bernard Lester, go.
Yes, good. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. I'm Bernard Lester Go, LPU alumni. My question is, how come the Asian cruise industry haven't made a solid announcement when will they restart cruising around Asia compared to the North American and European cruise industries that made tentative announcements?
Dr. Hobson, maybe you can answer that one.
Well, yes, as we had a special issue which we did webinar on cruising a couple of weeks ago with a colleague from Edith Cowan University, Professor Ross Dowling. Look, that's a good question, Esther. And most of the cruise line industry at the moment is waiting for approvals from different countries for cruise ships to be allowed back into their waters. Even in North America, the cruise line industry has been quite bullish because the Center for Disease Control in the US has put us a no-sail order, which goes till July 24th. Now, that may be extended, of course, but the cruise industry there has decided to put a stake in the ground and say, we're going to try and get going again as of August the 1st. And you've seen from Europe more recently, various airlines announcing flights around about that time. So the cruise line industry is waiting for many of the health regulators in different countries around Asia and the port authorities to say they're ready to welcome cruise ships. So until they've got the okay from that, that's why they're waiting. So as you know, many of them have basically moored up, parked up their ships. I think there's about 18 in Manila Bay at the moment. There's about 13, 15 in Dubai. Again, they're also waiting till they can get approval from port authorities and health authorities.
Very good.
So, now on that note, Dr. Andy, I'm going to have to, I've got to go to Indonesia right now.
Question for you. I know Carla's got a question on the cruise industry. So before you go, you have to.
No problem.
Hello, my name is Sam from. Hello, my name.
What happened to?
I don't understand. Oh, Carla, she's back.
Carla's video got messed up. So
good afternoon. My name is Carla Colmenar, a faculty member from the Tourism Department of the University of Santo Tomas. And my question is, with the recent pandemic that we are experiencing right now, how can the cruise industry bounce back given that the people or the tourists have lost their confidence in traveling because of safety and security concerns? Thank you.
Well, Carla, that was a great question, and again speaks back to our first question we had today, which is about trying to really make sure that customers feel that health and safety. As mentioned, and in fact I was watching a news story out of Australia last night on a program called Four Corners, which was doing an expose on what had happened on the ships in Australian waters. And a lot of lessons have come out from this for the industry. And I think it's going to be bringing in some very, very strict health protocols. As mentioned, I think the cruise industry is going to have a tough time in some jurisdictions persuading them that we're ready to go again. The one advantage cruise ships do have is they do have quite substantial health facilities on board, unlike aircraft, for example. But of course, people are on the ships a lot longer. So the advantage will be that I think a lot of cruise ships will start probably only on half capacity. They will monitor health before people are allowed on the ship. I think they're going to be able to do much better monitoring people on the ship. And I think all those safety measures, the things we've spoken about in other webinars, will be introduced because they've got to tangibilize what they've done because of the situation that so many cruise lines found themselves in a few months back. So on that note, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. I've got my each week a different hat. And so this week I'm going to Vietnam. So I'll see you all, but I'm actually off to Indonesia now to do another webinar there. So thanks to everybody for your questions this week. I've got to head out. Bye for now.
Thanks, Prof. Hobson, for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Perry. And I just saw Jerry May Dungog come up. Welcome, Jerry. You've got a question for us, I know. Would you like to turn your microphone on and share your question?
I'm first year student of LPU. I'm Jordan Reed Varka. So my question is, tourism and hospitality industry has been known as the fastest growing industry in the globe. Due to the pandemic, many establishments has been affected. With the rise of the usage of social media, how tourists can enjoy a destination if there will be limitations such as social distancing?
Good question.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alan. You got beaches where you live, Alan. What's the story there?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, beaches have been temporarily closed for some time and then reopened, and now almost back to normal. Although, as you say, social distancing is still the norm in Australia. Of course, I think the new normal in terms of social distancing, unfortunately, is going to be around for some time, and I really think that that's part and parcel of, as everybody's aware, there are a number of stages that have been taken into account and been put into place by each of the governments around the world. And I think the experience in the meantime is absolutely being affected. People need to get used to the fact that they need to give a bit more space, especially to those people that they don't know. If people that are feeling unwell or at any point unwell should not only be social distancing, should also be looking at isolating themselves. That will be the new normal for some time, until such time as there is some level of control by each of the governments in terms of the impact of the virus. I think there will certainly be impacts to visitors in terms of their experiences. I'm hoping that those impacts are not substantial and that they're minimized in terms of the experience that the visitors can have, and that they can still enjoy their times, they can still enjoy being with their friends, they can still enjoy visiting places. I guess the social distancing will impact them to some extent.
Yeah, and actually, if you look even in the United States, a lot of the beaches were opened up this past weekend, and they were, I won't say packed like they usually are, but they were very crowded. So people are willing to go out as long as there's open air and social distancing. And if they go into an enclosed area, a movie theater or something else, they're going to wear a mask. So I think people will adjust very quickly. And over time, once the vaccine is developed and once the things slow down, then I think people will adjust even faster. Tina, what do you think?
I think, before a business actually starts to open, they've got to make sure that their staff are well trained already in the new protocols. And it will take maybe a week for them to learn the basics, because there's going to be new equipment, there's going to be new processes, etc. Aside from that, the Philippines Department of Tourism is going to move for more domestic tourism. I think they're going to be marketing it for locals initially, because it open spaces, etc. Because inviting newcomers like international guests would pose great risk, because it's going to be like quarantine protocols again, 14 days. I don't know if it's going to stop, but domestic tourism is something that we can drive so that people can get acclimatized again to the new ways that people are going to be traveling, experiencing the new ways that are going to in the different destinations. If you practice with a lot of local guests, then you would be more or less be familiar already in handling international guests as well. And so this is one way that we can take the first small step, in the words of Neil Armstrong, where you take one small step for man, but one great step for mankind. I think starting small is going to be big eventually later on. So we've got to start off everyone. And that's why, going back to education, my push really is to make sure that we coordinate with industry. You don't have to wait until our students are actually graduates, because it's going to be too late then. We've got to make sure that we incorporate it as early as when we go back to school, when we're teaching. And so I'm very happy with this 30-minute, because we get to see what are the new protocols, what are the new procedures already that's being done. And hopefully we'll have industry pick up on this as well.
Very
Thanks.
good. Thank you, Tina. Listen, we have a question from Ural. Let's see. He's got his hand up for a long time, so let's ask him.
Hi, sir. My question is, for a small and medium enterprises in the industry of tourism and hospitality, what measures can they do to ensure that they can have guests rebook, seeing that tourism is forecasted to be out of the norm as the world tries to recover from a global recession ahead?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably the toughest one for every business out there. I believe that the most important thing that any business has to do is to regain trust with their customers. And how do you regain trust? They must have confidence in your policies, they must have confidence in your management, and they must have confidence in the way you run your business. And you must share that and communicate it with the customers. You say you took everybody's temperature today. How do I know that? Well, in some countries, some places, they put a sticker on the employee and it says, my temperature this morning at 9:30 a.m. was this. And it's a different color every day. So you know that it's a new sticker every day. It's a dated, and that's a one way to demonstrate that, yes, we're doing it, and we're doing this to protect ourselves, and we're doing it to protect you. So that's one example. Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. And a good question, as you said, one of the toughest questions to ask. I also think there's absolutely a need for the practices not only to be with small businesses, but to expand right across the industry. So I think whatever is started with small business needs to carry through to medium-sized and large-sized businesses. All the businesses, the whole industry needs to come together with a voice about re-attracting, giving guest and customer confidence. And there will be a number of different ways that different restaurants, bars, hotels will handle that, cruise lines, airlines, and so on. But each and every one of them send an important message, not only to their guests and their customers, they also send important messages to their staff and their management, that they've got processes in place that look to regain the comfort and, I guess, the guests and customers' confidence.
Very good. Tina?
Yeah, recently I read Chitwan, who's one of the coffee entrepreneurs that we have here. She said, small is big. Small is king right now, because you don't have as much capitalization, as much investment. You can start with maybe 2 or 3 people already in your staff, and you're able to run a business. And so I think small operations will have faster, quicker turnaround in adopting to the new norm, as compared to operations where you have like maybe 100, 200 employees. And you can do a trial and run with small business, and eventually find the right mix of making sure that you're able to provide service that your customers are going to be confident that you're able to follow the new protocols for COVID-19. So I think this is something that small businesses should be happy about. They should be able to carry off new protocols in a quick turnaround, as compared to big business, especially if you've got like maybe chains of hotels where they have to develop one protocol in a big chain can be transmitted to several other chains in other countries. It will take a long time before you're able to transmit everyone and to undergo training. But small businesses, I think you're going to be the lifeline for the tourism and hospitality industry right now.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity for young people to start their own businesses, because there are going to be new businesses as a result of this pandemic. I can't tell you what they will be, but they might be about sanitation. They might be about temperature taking. They might be about new apps for reservations. So there's a lot of new opportunities that will come because of the pandemic, but people have to be aggressive and get out there and try things. It's easy to start small. Just like we started small during the pandemic, we created this weekly talk. And so that's what we're doing. And every week we try something new, and we mess up and we try it again, and we get better. And hopefully you're enjoying this, and that's why we keep doing it. And Alan, I think we have one more video question, and then I think that will be the last one from Sam, also from NKUHT. Thank you. Let's try.
My name is Sam Pramadi from National Kaohsiung University of Hospitality and Tourism, and I am under the International Master Programs of Tourism and Hospitality. My question today is, what policies should government put in place in order to control the infection level of COVID-19 in the country? Thank you. Hello, my name is Sam Pramadi from National Kaohsiung University.
We already heard that one. Okay, hey, actually, I'll start with that one because last week I was talking about social distancing and the apps that some places use. Hong Kong uses an app to control people that are under quarantine that makes them stay in their facilities. In Singapore, they're using apps that actually tell you where you've been and who you were near, and also how, if that other person was sick, they will notify you. So that technology is happening now. There are some issues with it about privacy and other challenges and to get it to work. But I believe if there is no vaccine in the next 6 months or a year, protocols on how people actually will be tracking each other with apps. Alan, you're the tech guy.
Yeah, listen, the question is not purely a tech question or a tech answer. I think it's really important and something that maybe has been missed in us coming to terms with COVID is that, again, there's been a number of viruses in the world previous to this. And I really don't think the world has really as learned as much as it could have from each of those instances. And not only has it not learned as much as it could have, it hasn't really put in place a range of policies, processes, and procedures that it can then use for future pandemics. So examples might be the bird flu, the mad cow disease, the previous coronavirus. What did we learn? What worked? What didn't work? And what do we need to do for the future? So I really think governments hopefully learn from this experience, and that starts happening more at a policy level. And that, for example, why were countries like Singapore or Taiwan? There are countries that have gotten through this pandemic better than others. What have they done differently, and what might we learn from that in order for the future? So I think it's a multi-pronged question. It's more of a governmental type policy question that you're asking, and there are many different ways in which governments can deal with this. I think one thing that they've all done well is they've looked at different stages of locking down society to try and stop the spread, and then from there opening up in a staged manner so that it poses as little or as least risk to the people of their country and to the industries that rely on travel as ours does. But a great question. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you very much, Alan. Tina, you have a comment on that one?
Yeah, it's very confusing actually, because each agency would have their own set of policies. In the Philippines, there's the IATF. This is the Interagency Task Force that actually has, among others, Department of Tourism, Department of Health, Department of Transportation, etc. But the thing is, it's not just local. It's not just national. There's also regional. So maybe the local government units will also have that. But I think what is missing is a link that really binds everyone together. And if you're getting international guests, governments also have to buy into what other nations are putting in as their new protocols. There has to be a supra agency that can come out with protocols that are going to be must be follow procedures by all countries, regardless of country. It has to be something that's followed. So rules are evolving. As we speak, there are new resolutions, new procedures are being dictated by government. But tomorrow, next week, it's going to change. What we need to do is make sure that we communicate it with the stakeholders, because it's going to end up a mess if nobody really has that central repository of all this information. They've got to have updates. They've got, just like in any ISO, you've got the most recent policy on top, so that you can know which is superseded, which is still current. Yeah. So we have to look at that.
I agree, Tina. It's very confusing. Even I read today, Japan has stopped all international flights from 133 different countries. And next week, it could be some other countries. So how can anyone plan their travel or business if they want to do that? We have a question from Shira May Elnar. Why don't you unmute your microphone and let's hear from you.
Hi, a pleasant afternoon to everyone.
Good.
How are you, ma'am, sir?
Okay, very good. Ask your question.
So my question is, what do you think are the perceptions of the aspiring flight attendants or cabin crew like me regarding the safety precautions of the airline company for their crew members amidst the post-pandemic situation?
So you're saying what should companies do to protect their employees who are crew members?
Aspiring crew members for the airline company po, regarding the safety precautions for their company for amidst the post-pandemic situation.
You know, my comment on that is if you work on a plane or if you work on a cruise ship and you are in close quarters with large numbers of international travelers, you should be wearing the best protective equipment they can find. They should be checking you regularly. They should be giving you whatever medicines you need, and they should be making sure that you're safe. Because if they don't, then nobody's going to be traveling in the future. So we have to protect the people that take care of our traveling guests. Alan, I know that even if you go to Australia, you have a 2-week quarantine in Australia. So if I want to go to Australia, they have to lock me up for 2 weeks. Is that true, Alan?
That's right. I think I absolutely agree with what Andy has said there. You know, not only is it about protecting the staff, it's about protecting the guests. So airlines need to take much more seriously the social distancing, start separating. It means that their loads on the aircraft will be reduced. But as has been said many, many times, you only need one person, and everybody on that plane runs the risk of being infected. That's staff and passenger. But in Australia, right now, just as a part of the government policy in terms of arrivals into Australia, if you're arriving from anywhere internationally, you're required to undergo 2 weeks of isolation. And generally, what the government is doing at the moment is they've identified if you're not an Australian citizen and you're not able to isolate at home, and in fact, it applies to everybody at this stage. There are hotels that have been identified for isolation, and everybody goes to a hotel and stays in the hotel for 2 weeks. The government feeds them while they're there, monitors their health, monitors their conditions, and then releases them after those 2 weeks if they're safe. If there are any issues in that 2-week time, then it's escalated to the next level. Then they're required to be hospitalized and then checked while they're at risk to themselves and others. So it again touches on not only airlines, it spreads across all levels of the industry and all levels of the community.
Very good.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you for that question. And I think we have time for one more question. I see Evangeline Timbach from UST. I know I told you I was going to ask her a question.
Yes.
She
yes, good afternoon. Yes.
Video.
I'm here. Do you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, Evangeline, we got you.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Greetings from the University of Santo Tomas, Philippines. So my question is, what are the new tourism and hospitality directions that shall define new jobs and new competencies? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Tina, why don't you start with that one? New jobs after COVID-19.
Oh my gosh. I guess it's going to be the social media manager is going to be very strong because you've got to have like your presence in the digital landscape now. It's not going to be something that's going to be, you've got to promote your hotel, your services, your products. You're going to have risk managers as well, because you've got to study what in your operation is going to be very critical in making sure that you don't expose your stakeholders, your guests to any kind of risk in the whole guest cycle that you have. There's going to be health officers that will make sure that these practices are being done by everyone. Whether you're a guest, you're a VVIP guest, you're not exempt from all of these rules. So these are things that are going to evolve, and it's pretty exciting because then we're going to see that tourism and hospitality is going to thrive again, maybe 2-3 years from now. Thanks. Those are my thoughts.
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, if I just bring it back to something very basic for you, Vanji, I think also the industry is going to need to do some training, retraining, just on some of the existing jobs that are there. So, for example, reservations people might start using platforms like we're using today, Zoom. So they might Zoom the client, speak with the client, have a feel for what that client wants and needs before they get to the hotel. I think just some basic training around staff using a bit of technology, and those staff that are a bit more competent with technology, I think that opens up a whole realm of employment opportunities for them.
Yeah, I agree. If you just think, we all have to do new. Well, this is great. Who's got the dog? All right. I don't know who that.
It's Christian. Oh.
Unmute, Andy. Andy, unmute yourself.
I unmuted myself. I don't know what happened.
There we go.
Okay, Alan, any more comments before we wrap this up for today?
Yeah, I was going to say we thought that we probably wouldn't get enough questions. We thought that the session might be a bit shorter than usual, but you know that I guess this is a great example of the interest that we've got from the people that participate in these 30-minute talks. Listen, all I can say is thank you very much to everybody who's come along and joined us today. Thank you very much for those of you that have taken the time to send us questions in advance, and for those of you that have maybe not sent us questions in advance, opened up your microphone, shared your living room with us, and asked us questions and kept the session interesting and I guess very participative. We hope that you enjoyed today's session. Again, we're sorry we didn't get to everybody's questions, because when I saw the list of questions that Andy sent me this morning, there was something like 80 or 90 questions that we could have asked, and there was never going to be enough time for that. But thank you for participating. Next week, we'll be going back to one of our more traditional 30-minute talk sessions, and keep safe, everybody, as they say.
Tina, why don't you close? Give us a couple closing comments, Tina.
It's going to be very exciting in the very near future, because things are going to change, and it's nice to be part of the change, because you are going to be able to affect more change as being part of the change agent. I just saw a very interesting question from Amy Saw, graduating students. I guess this is, a good time for them to give research on new protocols, new things that are going to be needed by industry. And this is something that we can flow back to industry. There's a lot of things that are going to change in the way that we do hotels, restaurants, travel agencies, tour operators, etc. And this is exciting times ahead of us.
Thank you for that, Tina. I'm going to go through a couple other key points. So right now, even more important for us today is to complete our survey. So I'm going to send out the survey link to you now. So that's one way for you to answer the survey. This was a different program. We wanted to try something new. We've never done this before. We may never do it again. You never know. So we'll have to see how it goes. But your comments, especially on this one, we'd appreciate it. And again, make sure you complete the survey. We'll send a certificate to those people that were here today. So that's important. We also want to thank our academic partners again, especially for joining us today. So Tina, thank you very much for joining us for today's program. Vanjie, I know you're still out there somewhere. Thank you. And Amy So from University of Macau is out there somewhere. And so we thank them for joining us today and for their support. And Lee Singh from National Kaohsiung University, she's always ready to participate. We'll have her as a guest speaker someday maybe when we do an educators session. And so thank you to all of you for joining us today. Next week, we're very happy to have a speaker from Macau, Dr. Glenn McCartney, who's the Associate Dean for Faculty of Business Administration at the University of Macau. He wrote a very interesting paper, which we're going to find out if we can give to everyone who attends next week, about Macau and from the tourism lockdown to tourism recovery. So he will be our guest speaker next week, and we'll be interviewing him and asking him questions, and we'll try to get some more questions from our audience next week. And we look at all the information for that will be coming out on Friday when we send out our typical flyer, which goes out on Fridays to invite everyone for next week's session. So next week will be a webinar. It'll be the way it has been in the past, where you'll get a link, you'll get a password, and you'll join the webinar next week. The meetings are a little bit harder to manage, so we appreciate you trying today. And for that, we want to thank you all for joining us today. Alan, say goodbye, and Tina say goodbye, and we'll say, and everybody will turn on all the microphones, and everybody can say goodbye at the same time.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Forward to seeing
Bye,
everybody next week.
everyone. Thank
You
you.
got your hat.
Bye. Thank you.
Tina.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, that was great. 30 minutes.
Fantastic. Goodbye, everybody, and see you next week. Goodbye. Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Banji.
Thanks for the invitation. Finally, you've got a lady in your team. Thanks, X-Men. They're very nice. Excellent. Excellent. Extraordinary. What's another extra? X.